So, what's your story? Like for everyone watching, like, what's your story? How was this whole brokerage created, and what's it all about?
Yeah, so me personally, my background is in behavior analysis and organizational behavior management. So I did not have a real estate background. I got my PhD in organizational behavior management. Was working in corporate consulting for several years. Really enjoyed that, getting to go into companies, and the fundamental thing that we were doing was working with organizations who were having performance problems internal in their organization, or they were here and they wanted to get there, whatever it was. And so what we would do, the company I was working with, and kind of what I was pretty good at, is going into an organization and figuring out how do we restructure the work environment, not necessarily physically, but in terms of what sorts of training exists, what sorts of behaviors are rewarded or punished on the job on a kind of systematic level, and how do we change that so that you're driving the desired employee behavior that you want to see. Maybe that's related to safety, maybe that's related to something specific performance, maybe that's something related to retention and employee turnover, or attracting the people that you want. Whatever it is, people-specific things was what I was doing before. And a friend of mine, Luke, who started Kendrick Realty, he and I have known each other for years, and he was in the real estate investment space and got into real estate brokerage because he saw this huge opportunity in terms of building a lot more efficiency into brokerages. And so the kind of fundamental idea that Kendrick was founded on was taking as many of the tasks and processes that individual real estate agents usually wind up recreating themselves and centralizing that at the brokerage level. With this idea that the brokerage really should be functioning as an organization that can build economies of scale around marketing, around lead generation, around client follow-up, around transaction coordination, around all of these kind of centralized things, so that the agents don't have to go out and figure out all of these things for themselves, one person at a time. And so, when he was starting the business, he and I were talking back and forth about it. He was building some things, and I was kind of doing performance consulting. So it was a really interesting project for me just to kind of hear about. And eventually, as he was going and creating the business, just kind of made sense to quit my very comfortable full-time consulting job and jump into the world of a startup. I think of us more of a startup than as a real estate brokerage, although we're definitely a brokerage. But coming at solving some of the really core issues, and some of the biggest ways that we're doing that are around centralized lead generation, and looking at how do we take online leads and build processes within our organization to convert those into happy homeowners, or we're probably about 80-20 buyers sellers right now. Mm-hmm. So we've got an inside sales team, our client concierge team, so they're keeping in constant communication. We've got in-house transaction coordination. We've got a lot of training for our agents, so that when they get the leads, when they get the interactions with clients, they know exactly what to do. Offer review service, so that we're putting out top-notch offers, so that the agents can really focus on selling versus having to figure out marketing, having to figure out transaction coordination, building their own business internally. So that's really been what we're trying to approach real estate to do.
So what are all your lead sources? Like, do you heavily focus on Zillow or Facebook or?
All of them. So when we started off, when the company started, so we started in 2016, really kind of got started, kind of got the wheels turning in 2017. And kind of as by way of context, so when we started in 2017, that first year, our brokerage sold about $75 million worth of property. In the second year, 2018, we hit, I think, about $150 million worth of sales. And in this year, 2019, we're about on track to be probably around 200, give or take a bit.
How many agents?
We've got 3 regions. We've got Northern California, Southern California, and Florida. And at any given time, we're running about 50 agents between all 3 of those offices. So small operation. It's not intended to be a brokerage where you got 100 agents in each office. Yeah. Our Northern California office encompasses all of the San Francisco Bay Area. So it's 10 million person geographic area that we cover with 15 agents.
15 or 50?
1.5.
1.5.
Yeah.
So 15 agents producing 200 million.
50 agents. So across all, so that encompasses Northern California, Southern California, and Florida. The 50 to 200 million number.
Got it. 50, yeah. But that's still averaging 4 million per agent, I guess, kind of thing. How does it look between, like, of all your agents?
Yeah.
You know, centralizing lead gen and creating this operation. Who gets the leads? Like, how do you guys figure out how to optimize that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and one that we deal with all the time, and figuring out, like, what is the right balance, right? Because from a brokerage perspective, those leads are expensive. Anyone who's gone and tried to buy online leads, you know that you can go to like Boomtown or Commissions Inc. that are one type of lead source that are usually between $5 and $15 per lead, all the way up the spectrum. Zillow usually is at the more expensive end, which runs several $100s for one lead. Of course, the lead quality varies depending on the source, but for us as a brokerage, we're spending a huge amount of money on this. So figuring out who does that go to is really important to us. So one of the things that we've spent a lot of time and energy focusing on is building in performance and accountability systems internal to the brokerage, so that the agents who are doing a really good job, who are converting the leads, who are following up with the leads, built into the system, into the CRM that we have, it's automatically routing to those agents.
Yep. What CRM do you use? Is it internal, like you self-made?
Yeah, so we tried a variety, and there's a lot of really good CRMs out there, but for what we were really specifically trying to do, we decided it made the most sense to build our own, and build something that would be able to have kind of a brokerage level system, so that we could really have a lot of insight into what's happening in the leads, and for our agents to have an accountability system for them, which our agents really like and appreciate. I think one of your questions was what's a big opportunity in the real estate industry, and I think for individual agents, or what I guess it was, what can technology bring? Bringing accountability and consistency for an individual agent, because I think that's something every single independent contractor struggles with, is how do we keep going every single day?
Do you guys raise money?
No. We're totally self-funded at this point.
And agents are independent contractors? Yep, that model. So, help educate people about all the lead sources. If you do it so much, like you said, Boomtown commission things are $5 to $15. That's because they're like ebook leads, and like they're not actually in the market. They're just interested in real estate, kind of thing.
No. So the biggest difference between those, so you got generally what's known as forced registration and opt-in leads. So Boomtown, Commissions Inc., Ylopo, I believe KV Core, a variety of other kind of your search site platforms where they'll create a property search website branded to you. You go onto the site. As a consumer, you're scrolling through pictures, and a window pops up and says, hey, you want to see more pictures? Enter your contact information, or connect with Facebook, or connect with Google, or whatever. And that pulls the contact information in. So you're getting someone registering on the site, but the intentionality of the consumer is less. Versus Realtor.com or Zillow, which are probably two of the biggest players. Zillow, includes Trulia and kind of their whole suite of things. Those are opt-in leads. So what they've gotten really good at and spent a ton of money really perfecting is getting out there. You as a consumer know you're looking for a house. You think Zillow. I'm going to go on Zillow. I'm going to search for this house. Love it. Here's a contact form. I'm going to fill in my information and say, I want more information on this house. Contact an agent on this house. So you get a lot more intentionality in that. And so the person that's making that inquiry usually is saying, like, hey, I want to go out and see this house this weekend.
What are you finding gives you the lowest cost to acquire customer? What source? Because like there's realtors who go, I don't have time to sift through all these leads, so I'd rather a really, really higher quality lead, even if it's more expensive. But then a marketer may go, I don't mind the cheaper leads, because if you have a proper follow-up system, then the cost to acquire customer can, in the end, be cheaper. What are your thoughts on that?
And you hit on a really, really important point, and that is for anyone who's thinking about lead buying, the process and the consistency of follow-up is absolutely essential. I mean, it's a huge part of the reason why we built our own CRM. We've got our client concierge team, which is at about 2 to 1, so like 2 agents per 1 concierge for our whole brokerage that are just helping to do follow-up. So getting speed to lead. When anyone makes an inquiry, we want to reach out to them, establish that communication. One of the biggest complaints that consumers have is that they don't hear from their agent enough. There's not that level of communication, there's not that level of follow-up. So we've got a whole back office team that is solely focused on following up with all these online leads. Because agents, they're writing contracts, they're showing homes, they got a lot of things that they got to do. They can't be in front of a computer calling, following up all day, every day. It just doesn't make sense.
So what do you recommend? So for the agents who are watching that are thinking about getting into lead generation, what would be some of your best tips of like, start with this source and do it this way? It's probably going to yield the best ROI.
So it's a little hard to say one specifically, because one of the things that we found is cost per lead is a somewhat useful measure, but what we've found is the most useful measure is cost per appointment. Because who cares if it's 50 cents a lead? If it takes you 1,000 leads to get a face-to-face, that's not as useful as if you can pay $100 and every 3 people you're going to get an appointment for.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is across all of the different lead sources, we've found that they all sit within a pretty similar band of cost per appointment. It's just the amount of work that goes into it. So like your $5 lead, you usually got to buy 50 or so to be able to get 1 appointment. But like a Zillow lead, they might be $200, $300, $400 a piece, but they convert. You can get 25 or 30% of those, and higher, depending on the type of Zillow lead that you're getting, into a face-to-face appointment. I would say for any agent that's considering online lead generation, though, again, the thing that you have to do, what we've found is that you have to go all in. Like that, if you're gonna buy online leads, they're too expensive for you to just kind of do it, for you to just kind of dabble in it. So for context, for each of our agents, we're spending about $2,000 to $4,000 per agent per month on lead generation. So they're getting enough that we're able to build these systems and processes.
What are you finding is the cost to acquire a customer? Because I do leads for agents. I tell them, like, it's realistically, when you think about the law of averages and the consistency of doing this over and over and over again, it might cost you $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 at the end of the day to get that client. What are you seeing some trends in that bandwidth?
What you said kind of strikes about true. So we have some that are around like $500 to acquire a client. Really some that are around $1,000. That's kind of the band that it's sitting in. And there's probably some costs that we're not factoring in. I think it depends on how you do your math.
Yeah.
But about $500 to $1,500 to acquire a new client is probably about right.
That's good. What about that cost per appointment? You're looking at probably like $250 to $500 kind of per appointment kind of thing?
No, so I guess it's probably closer to $500 per appointment, and depending on how you're converting that appointment.
Yeah.
And how much you do the pre-screening up front.
Because Zillow, there's that NAR Zillow study that says 85% of homeowners only interview 1 agent. And then I saw another one that said the average homeowner interviews 1.7 agents. If you do the math, it's 60%. So then I go, okay, so where's the difference here? Because it's a different question that yields a different kind of number. And I go, well, if it's a relationship and referral-based lead, they probably don't interview anyone. And then if it's a lead from an online source, they probably interview 3 to 5 people.
Yeah.
The close ratio then may be like 1 in 3 to 1 in 5 or something.
Yeah.
What are you guys finding are some of the close ratios that agents are experiencing? Because they don't track this and they need to.
Yeah, and that's something that we have really been focusing on a lot, is tracking all of those statistics, all of that data and everything. And it's challenging to track a lot of stuff. But what we're finding is that our really successful, really effective agents are at about 40 to 50% close rate for you get a first appointment. Are you getting that either second, additional appointments or sold home immediately after that?
Yeah.
Down to about 20% is kind of the lower end, and I think that depends on a couple of things. If you're a really high end market, you tend to have clients who are going to interview other people, be more likely to. So really kind of in that band, about 4 to 1, 2 to 1.
Now, when you look at the future of the industry and commissions are compressing, for most people, you might be able to get the full rate, but to be competitive, and especially if it's a hot market, as a listing agent, you might have to not charge full rate. Buyer's agents probably do get full rate. Cost per advertising just kind of climbs every single year. Commissions are kind of per deal going down every year, therefore the ROI on it. What do you guys, for a company that focuses so much on online leads, which can create scale and consistency in its own right, are there any fears or any challenges you have that you think about moving forward, like with the way the industry is moving and the way advertising?
So it could be that if all of a sudden buyers have to pay a buyer's agent commission, that would be very tough. I think it'd be very tough for our buyers because there's a lot that couldn't afford it, and that would make some challenges. I think about these things, but more or less a lot of those bigger factors are out of our control. So I try not to stress too much about it because otherwise, it'd lead to a lot of stress. I think for us though, the thing that we really focus on is as long as we are delivering a really consistently high quality experience for the customer, which I think that's really what we're trying to drive at by having the consistency of process for our agents, so that they know, when they're interacting with a Kendrick Realty agent, they're getting the same training. We have the same follow-up process. That all of our, all the offers are, of a high grade. Then that's really what we can try to focus on to justify our income, justify what we're making as agents and as a brokerage.
What do the agents? What's your comp plan like? Because you then feed so much business and have so much systems in the back end for the agent, they must be having more volume as a result of it. But then they make less per deal. How does that look?
Yeah, you pretty much hit it. It's for our agents that we bring on. I can't really think of anyone who has come from an existing book of business that they had and didn't put more money in their pocket at the end of the day by coming to us. Did they take a lower split? Yeah, that kind of comes with it, because what we're doing is investing all of that money in the lead generation, all the time and energy into the training, which is free. Well, it's free, but it's included in part of the brokerage. The concierge service, that's included in part of the brokerage. The offer review, included in part of the brokerage. The training, the mentorship, all of that stuff. It's all included as part of coming on board, because so one of the things that we kind of take as a stance is that we don't charge our agents anything, no upfront fees. So what we're trying to do is really align the incentives so that if they're not making money, we're not making any money off them. So it's in our best interest to make sure that they're selling as many houses as they possibly can.
Now, you guys were, you said earlier, nominated for the Innovator Awards. Why do you think you were on that list?
I was joking about that. I kind of wanted to see the criteria that everyone was put up on there. It was Innovative Brokerage was the award that we were nominated for. And I think part of that is some of the things that we're doing to really reevaluate the relationship between the broker and the agent, and looking at our relationship as a true partnership and as real estate agent investors, where we are directly investing in our agents. We are putting our success directly in line with their success, where we have no way to make money unless our agents are very successful. And really taking that approach as a brokerage, that we want to bring on high quality, top-notch agents, or train them up to that high grade of quality, and really make sure that they are as successful as possible. So we don't have people who are just kind of hanging their license doing 1 or 2 deals. Everyone's doing 10 to 25 plus deals a year.
Now you guys have a different model than, there's so many brokerage models coming out there, and I want to get your take on the brokerage business model landscape and what you think it will turn into in the future, because you've got the traditional brokerages and what they do for their agents or don't do, and they have their different comp plans because of it. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got these employer-based, discount, flat fee-based brokerages who their agents they're trying to actually get their agents to do like 100, 200 deals per year, because they just basically do everything for them, but they all make so much less per deal. And then you guys are kind of moving up like into this middle, where they're still independent contractors, still probably trying to charge the same rates as the traditionals, but you guys are providing more support to the agent. Do you think all these brokerage models will have their target clientele of agents who want to work with them versus the other brokerages, and the markets where this model works the best for versus the other ones? Or are you thinking and betting on some of these brokerage models to not work long term, especially after maybe an economic downturn, and for yours to win for certain reasons?
I think probably more of the first point that you made is that there's going to be agents who are going to be attracted to more of a traditional brokerage model, or some of the models that are kind of somewhat similar to that. And there's going to be agents who are more attracted to some of the newer models that are out. For us, we look a lot at recruiting and really making sure that the agent that we're bringing on board matches our model, because it is absolutely not for everyone. For about every 10 people that apply, we wind up recruiting about one of them. So there's definitely a very specific type of person. We don't go after the agent who's already a top producer, who's got that huge brand image, who really wants to be their own figurehead of the business. I think as an industry that'll probably still be around in the future, I think what we'll see more of, though, is brokerages that have kind of what we're trying to do, centralizing and building economies of scale for the things that can be built out of it. Lead generation, training, transaction management, especially with all the technology that's coming out to enable that and to make that a lot easier.
Now, how do you think about your model compared to the other new ones like Really and Homey, who they're flat fee discount brokers who also have a lot of like a tech company and like a startup and a business, like a lot of stuff internal, so that the agents don't have to do as much work anymore. They just focus on, hey, show buyers homes, meet the seller face to face, negotiate the deal, and just do that a lot. How do you compare your model to theirs, and why one will work more than the other long term, or just in different markets?
I don't know those two specifically, so I don't know the intimate details of how they work exactly. I think one of the things that we've found is that in order for us to allow our agents to be as successful as they can be, we really do need to be more involved directly in their business, in terms of helping problem solve with the coaching and mentoring process, helping doing ongoing training, and really kind of face-to-face training, and having it feel more like a team, but not specifically a traditional team type approach. So I don't know. I think the flat fee brokers have an appeal for a certain type of agent, and I think for someone who wants a little bit more of a full service brokerage as an agent, there's a lot of value in the type of model that we provide, where someone's going to be able to come on board and they are going to be able to focus on a narrower set of activities, but really things that most agents, the people that we recruit, those are the things that they like doing. They like being face-to-face with people. They like selling. They like negotiating on contracts. They don't like doing the marketing piece. They don't like going and kind of doing the paperwork or
is there an archetype to your typical agent, like years of experience, personality, age, gender, like?
Yeah, probably. So we've found the most success in recruiting agents who kind of fall in two buckets. One is either the experienced agent who has kind of hit a plateau. They're really good. They like what they do, but they're kind of have been at the same spot and are struggling to figure out, like, I'm here. I want to be here. What do I need to do to bridge that gap? For those agents, the ones who have been the most effective are also the most open-minded in terms of shifting how they're doing their business, to recognizing that, hey, I've been here, I need to do some things differently, and I'm willing to adopt some different ways of approaching the business. The second group of people that have been most effective are the newer agents. We've got a lot of appeal for that, because someone can hit the ground running and within a couple months have a book of business that looks like someone who's been in the industry for 5 years. We had an agent who joined us back in November, brand new licensee. She had just gotten her license like a month before she joined us, had never sold a house before, but we put her through the training programs and kind of everything that we go through. And now to date, I think she's sold close to about $5 or $6 million worth of property, and that's across 10 or 12 homes that she's sold. So she's doing a lot. She's got a $1 million listing that just got into contract that she double ended earlier this last week. So that will add a couple million extra onto that, and so that's like a really nice example of someone who didn't have real estate experience, but was a very hard worker, was very open to adopting our best practices and everything, and just really applied it, put a lot of hard work towards it. So that's kind of the person that we're looking for as well.
Cool. What's the future for your brokerage? What geographies do you want to launch in? Do you just want to stay in certain markets? What's on your vision and roadmap?
Yeah. So growth and expansion is definitely on the roadmap for the future. We're revamping our CRM right now to kind of change up some of the things that we're doing to make it a lot easier for the agent, interface a lot more with kind of doing some automated client follow-up. And so the plan is to launch that in the next 6 to 8 months. And once that's out, we're going to really look at where can we expand to. I think larger geographies work best for the online lead generation model, because if you got a smaller area, there's just not enough leads to support a brokerage. So looking at some of the larger metropolitan areas, probably in the West Coast, expanding out on the East Coast. We've got our foothold in Florida, so deepening the presence there, but really looking at some of the bigger cities out on the West Coast, and then expanding beyond that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey man, well thanks so much
Yeah,
for being
absolutely.
on the show. As always, if you guys want to stay up to date with the new brokerage models, the new people, the new leaders in the industry, subscribe to the YouTube show and podcast so you can be great in real estate. I'll see you soon.